Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Every time I turn on the news, it's all doom and gloom about the climate.
Yeah, I get that. It can feel overwhelming sometimes.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with problems and it's hard to see a way forward. But what if we flip the script for a bit?
Flip the script, how?
Well, what if instead of focusing solely on the problems, we looked at the opportunities that come with tackling climate change?
I like where you're going with this.
We're going to explore this idea today. Our main source material is an excerpt from a document called Climate Change Opportunities, and it presents a really refreshing perspective.
It's a fascinating read, really challenges you to think differently about the whole climate conversation.
It does. And one of the biggest surprises for me was the economic angle. I was here about green jobs, but this suggests it's much bigger than that.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about a few new jobs here and there. The renewable energy sector has the potential to completely reshape our economy in a good way.
So it's not just about saving the planet, it's about creating a more prosperous future, too.
Exactly. Renewable energy is inherently more labor-intensive than fossil fuels. You think about installing solar panels, maintaining wind farms, all of that requires a lot of hands-on work.
So more jobs, more economic activity.
More jobs, more economic activity, especially at the local level. Think about all those solar panel installations happening in towns and cities across the country.
That makes sense. So we're talking about a potential boom for local economies, not just profits for big corporations. That's really interesting.
It is, and the numbers back it up. The solar industry alone is creating jobs at a rate 17 times faster than the rest of the U.S. job market. That's a pretty compelling example of how a green economy can actually be a thriving economy.
Wow, 17 times faster. That's impressive. But let's be realistic for a second. A thriving economy needs reliable energy, right? Can we really depend on renewables to provide that?
That's a great question, and it's one a lot of people have. And the answer, at least according to this document, is a resounding yes. And it's not just about reliability, it's about security, too.
Security. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. When we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, we also reduce our dependence on often unstable foreign energy sources.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about a cleaner environment, we're talking about greater energy independence as well.
Mm.
Nations can become more self-sufficient and less vulnerable to global energy price shocks.
You got it. And less vulnerable to geopolitical tensions, too. Stable energy prices, fewer supply disruptions. It's a much more secure energy future for everyone.
That's a perspective you don't hear every day. It's really interesting to think about climate action in terms of national security. And speaking of unexpected benefits, I was really struck by what this excerpt had to say about public health.
Yeah, that's another area where the connection to climate change is often overlooked, but when you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
Well, the air quality is going to improve when we're burning less fossil fuels.
Exactly. Less air pollution means fewer respiratory problems, lower rates of heart disease, a healthier population overall.
It sounds like a win-win scenario. A healthier planet means healthier people.
Exactly. And there are economic benefits, too.
Yeah.
A healthier workforce is a more productive workforce. Less healthcare expenses, fewer sick days. It's a positive ripple effect across society.
And it's not just about the physical health benefits either, right?
Right. Studies have shown that access to green spaces, cleaner environments, all of that has a significant positive impact on mental well-being, too. It's about creating healthier communities from the inside out.
That's fascinating. Okay, so we've covered the economy, energy security, and public health. Let's move on to something a bit more, well, cerebral. How does sustainability drive technological innovation?
Well, as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, right? When we set ambitious goals for a sustainable future, we're basically forcing ourselves to think outside the box, to come up with creative solutions to complex problems.
So it's like a challenge that sparks ingenuity.
Precisely. And we're already seeing the results of that. Think about the incredible advancements in energy storage, battery technology, or smart grids, for example.
Smart grids. Those sound futuristic. I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure what those are.
Think of it like the internet for our energy system. It's basically a way to manage energy flow more efficiently, integrate renewable energy sources seamlessly, and make the whole system more reliable and responsive to our needs.
So it's not just about generating clean energy, it's about distributing it intelligently as well. That sounds like a real game changer.
It is, and it's just one example of how the drive for sustainability is pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
This is all making me realize that climate action is so much more than just about saving the environment. It's about creating a better future, period.
I completely agree.
Now, this excerpt from Climate Change Opportunities also touches on the idea of resource efficiency and waste reduction. What's the key takeaway there?
It's about moving away from our current linear take, make, dispose economic model towards a more circular one.
A circular economy.
Yeah, imagine a forest, right? The leaves fall, they decompose, and they nourish the soil, which in turn helps new trees grow.
Mm.
It's a closed loop system. And that's the idea behind a circular economy. Products are designed to be reused, repaired, recycled. Nothing goes to waste.
It's like closing the loop on our consumption. And that's got to have some pretty significant benefits, right?
Definitely. Less waste means lower production costs for businesses. It also reduces our reliance on raw materials, which, let's face it, are finite. And then, of course, it's better for the environment. It's really a triple win.
So it's not just ethical, it's also just good business sense.
Yeah,
And I have to imagine this appeals to the growing number of eco-conscious consumers out there.
absolutely. People are becoming more aware of the impact their choices have, and they're actively seeking out sustainable brands and products.
It's a trend that's only going to grow stronger.
And that's a good thing. It's what's going to drive this shift towards a more sustainable future.
Okay, last but certainly not least, this excerpt mentions something called resilience to economic shocks. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Sure. So the idea here is that sustainable practices, the kind of things we've been talking about, can actually make economies stronger and more resilient to those unexpected events that tend to throw things off balance.
Like a global pandemic or a sudden spike in oil prices.
Exactly. So, for example, diversifying our energy sources, moving away from that dependence on fossil fuels, that helps buffer us against those volatile oil markets.
We're not as vulnerable to those sudden price spikes that can really hurt people's wallets.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to things like food security. Sustainable agricultural practices can help make crops more resistant to extreme weather events, for example.
So we're better equipped to deal with whatever curveballs Mother Nature throws our way.
Precisely. These are just a few examples, but the point is that sustainability isn't just about being green. It's about creating systems that are robust, adaptable, and ultimately better equipped to deal with the challenges of an increasingly complex world.
I'm so glad we had this conversation today. This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the incredible opportunities that come with addressing climate change. It's not about sacrifice, it's about creating a better future, a future that's more prosperous, more equitable, and more resilient.
Couldn't said it better myself. It's an exciting time to be alive, despite all the challenges we face.
It really is. And the best part is that we all have a role to play in creating this brighter future. So to our listeners out there, I encourage you to ditch the doom and gloom, embrace the possibilities, and keep diving deeper.
And if we shift our focus from problems to possibilities, who knows what we can achieve?
That's a great question to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.